Hi folks, hope you're okay today. It's good to be with you. My name's Jason and my website is jasonburnspreacher.com. Preacher.com. jasonburnspreacher.com. Um want to just share a few thoughts concerning the political elites and the political establishment in the UK. Just a minute ago, the House of Lords, and I was incensed and really angry at some of the House of Lords representatives that were sneering at the European, on the European referendum to stay or to leave, and sneering at the Brexit, and suggestions are made that the referendum is not binding, that Parliament can maneuver round the referendum and all the rest of it. And it really annoyed me because elites at Westminster and Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland and en masse generally, political representatives in the UK, they are arrogant and they are so out of touch with what ordinary people are thinking. With fire, implement Brexit. You need to implement the fact that democracy spoke. Majority said that they want to leave Europe, and you should respect the majority vote. And if you don't respect the majority vote, we don't live in a democracy. We're living in a tyrannical society where the elite and a small minority of elites, not just political, but a small minority of people who are xenophobic against anybody who's not for being part of Europe, and demonizing anybody who doesn't want to be part of Europe as racist or whatever. Basically, we're not in a democracy if Brexit is not implemented. What we are in is a tyrannical nation where a small minority of elites and then a massive, still a minority of these kind of xenophobic haters of anybody who doesn't want to be part of Europe in the way they want to be part of Europe, run by them rather than actual democracy. So for Nicola Sturgeon to say, oh, well, it's not binding on Scotland. Well, I'm sorry, you entered into the referendum. If you felt so strongly about it was not a good thing, you shouldn't have entered into the referendum. But Nicola Sturgeon, you entered into the referendum upon you, so you can't turn around and say, oh, well, we don't agree with it. And that's the hypocrisy that really angers me. Nicola Sturgeon really angers me because she's arrogant, utterly arrogant. The democratic process that she entered a referendum, the people of Scotland entered a referendum, and the whole of the UK spoke. The whole of the UK, that over half the UK decided not to be part of the Brexit, not to be part of the remain in Europe. And so, I mean, ultimately, it seems to me that what these politicians are going to do, they're going to muddy the waters and they're going to fudge the issue, and they're not going to fully implement, fully do that. I think what they're going to do is they're going to have backhanders, they're going to play the political game, and they're going to try and soften, because the elites, the political elites, are absolutely mortified what's happened. They're absolutely mortified that this has happened. Respect or value the ordinary people that voted, and that is the seed of the death death, and we're heading for a situation is not implemented, and if it's not respected and valued by the political elites and implemented, then there's going to be a revolution. There's going to be mass riots and revolution on the streets of the UK because the vast majority of people have been disposed of the political process. If Brexit in all its fullness and be seen to be doing that, you will alienate over half the country politically, and that half be a state within a state, and when it comes to a political or economic crisis, they will rebel and there will be a revolution. We're heading for, that is what we're heading for, if you don't sort yourselves out. So my rebuke to the political establishment is you need to get off your high horse, you need to sort yourself out, you need to shut up, and you need to start listening to the people. You need to appreciate the people, that you're not MPs just for your own grandizement, that you have a duty and a responsibility in public office to serve the people. And the vast majority of people do not want to be with Europe the way it was. And then you can come up with all your theories and all your arguments about, oh, it was a protest vote. Well, maybe it was. But so what? At the end of the day, they're the people who voted, and their political wish has to be, you're happy to obey it when it suits you. You're happy to obey the people when it suits you. But when it doesn't suit you, you don't want to obey what the people say. You want to overturn what they're doing. So I'm telling you, as political leaders in the UK, you are heading for sedition and revolution in this country if you don't get your act together. Heading for revolution and anarchy in this country if you do not get your act together. At any moment in British political history, you have an important responsibility to hear of democracy within the UK, or it could be the end of democracy. And it all depends whether you as political leaders really realize responsibility, a public duty to listen and follow what the people are saying in this area. And it makes me mad, and it gets me really angry that you just ignore that, that you think you're smart, that you think you're sophisticated, that you think that you just because you live in London or you've got some political base in London, that you are more connected than the people in the backwater of the UK, wherever, whatever, back together because you're heading for revolution. You know, when you be thrown in the middle of the road and beaten up and killed and left for dead as a political leader, because there are riots and revolution on the streets and you didn't listen to what I had to say. There'll be a day when Parliament will be full inside, will just be full of paper and derelict because revolution on the streets of the UK. And it's all because you didn't listen to the people. You were clever, you were smart, and you thought you were wise. And what you end up doing is disenfranchising ordinary people from the political process. A lot of people voted for Brexit because they felt alienated in their political climate. And they voted because they just had some political control in their lives which they felt had been taken away by you political elites. So if you start to meddle with that and play with that, you're going to alienate those people. They'll come and bite you. One day they'll revolt, and they'll have to revolt because you're not listening to them and you're pounding them to the ground. You're pounding them to the ground with your globalization, and you're not listening to the ordinary people, and it's got to stop. And if it doesn't stop, there will be revolution in this country. Mark my words, there'll come a point when the British people will say enough is enough. They are a very tolerant people, but they will say enough is enough. So it's really, really important that you start listening to the British people. It just makes me annoyed. It absolutely makes me annoyed that people in the House of Lords or in Parliament are sneering at Brexit, and the sneering, and also the anti-Brexit people sneering. Well, why have a democracy then? Why have a democracy? Why do we have a democracy if you're like that? Why? What's the point of a democracy if it's just one group of people who think they're right and think everybody else is an idiot, and therefore we're going to just follow what you say? So even though the majority vote that we're going to that we're to leave Europe, you're still sneering and carping, and at the end of the day, you're going to drag the vote back to what you want, like Nicola Sturgeon wants to do, and a lot of these elites at Westminster, and you just want to drag back referendum and overturn it in a very stealthy way. Point of democracy. It's not democracy anymore. You're destroying democracy. You're ruining democracy with your sophisticated, elitist, brow, leftist, sanctimonious hogwash, sprinkled with a bit of elitism, political and economic elitism. High heaven, and I absolutely hate it. I hate it. I hate it because it despises the common people of our country. It despises ordinary people in our country. It despises ordinary people. It despises true democracy. You're not democratic if you're not listening to ordinary people. And the people spoke that they don't want to be part of Europe, so implement it. It gets me. It really annoys me when I hear these politicians at law in the House of Lords, and I hear these MPs, and they're sneering at people who voted Brexit, and they're sneering at them and below them, as if they're as if they're more, these people who didn't vote Brexit are more superior. No, we're all equal, we're all same, and we all have an opinion, and we all have a vote, and the majority voted out, and that majority should be respected. And that's as simple as that. And if you mess around with that, if you play around with that, then you're tampering with the very foundations of democracy. And when there's revolution, when MPs are murdered and killed in that revolution, don't come to me and start crying saying, oh, why is it happening? Because I told you it would happen. I told you that's what was going to happen. And you didn't listen to me. What was going to happen in the UK? 5-6 years ago, I told you what was going to happen in Europe, that we were going to have mass killings through Islamic extremism. Nobody listened to me. Nobody took any notice. But I told you that's what's going to happen. I told you why it was going to happen, and nobody listened to me. And I'm telling you now, there's going to be a revolution in this country, and there'll be deaths. There'll be people dying, MPs dying in that revolution, because it'll be such a massive explosion of frustration moment. But in the next 5 to 10 years, there will be a massive explosion in this country if you don't implement Brexit. If you don't seem to be implementing Brexit, will happen, because what you're doing, you're disenfranchising ordinary people, and what you begin to have then is a ghetto mentality, where you have a state within a state. You have a culture that is within a nation but is not part of the nation. You have tens of millions of people that are in the UK, and that is a recipe for revolution. These are my thoughts. So I'm just saying to you, get your act together. You're not there for yourself. You're there for ordinary people. Start representing the people. Start listening to your constituencies and start appreciating the fact that you're called to serve the people, not to serve yourself. You can see that in the area. You can see, of really seeing the importance of serving the people. When Brexit out of Europe, the politicians, a lot of the politicians, it was all about them. It was all about and in the new order of things. And the public service and public duty kind of just went out of the window those first few days when the Brexit vote came in. You know, and you need to get your act together. You need to realize that you're here to represent the people. These are my thoughts anyway, because I know that the politician, the Prime Minister, Theresa May, and the cabinet are going to present this front that they're going to be implementing Brexit. But behind the scenes, I know, I've seen in the House of Lords today, and I know with these MPs, Nicola Sturgeon and people like that, arrogant, that they're just working behind the scenes right now to dampen the Brexit, so they can present it publicly that they're not, like Theresa May, but privately they will be trying to undermine it. If you undermine it, I'm telling you, you're going to have a revolution on your hands in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm telling you that now. I won't be instigating it, but there'll be people out there who will thrive on the alienation that you've created because of you've not listened to the people. And it'll be your own fault. It'll be your own stupid fault because you thought you were so clever, so smart, so sophisticated, but it turned on you and it bit you. With ordinary people, you can't mess with ordinary people's lives. They're real people who are being really affected, and they're real people with a real voice. They're intelligent people, and they have a voice, and you should listen to those people. They are ordinary people. They are important to the society. They have a value in the society. They have a contribution in this society, and you must listen to them. And if you don't listen to them, woe betide you in the next 5 to 10 years, because there will be a peasant revolt in this nation where the peasants will take arms and overthrow the nation, overthrow Parliament. That will happen if you don't get your act together. That people will take up arms and they will overthrow the government because the government has consistently failed to listen to the people. Now, but there's come a time when the patience will run out. So stop meddling and playing around with the political system of the UK and get your act together and start listening to ordinary people. That's what I see in the future. That's my frustration. Just so frustrated and annoyed. Political elites who just think that ordinary people are idiots who voted for Brexit. It infuriates me. Ordinary people, they should listen to what people have said. Forgive me if I'm a bit passionate about it. It's just really important to me that ordinary people should be listened to, and it just annoys me when I listen to debates and discussions in the House of Lords, and I listen to these MPs on the television. That the press are just as guilty. You ordinary people. We're not all the same. We all have different opinions on politics, and we should respect that. I respect the people who voted to stay in. If it would have gone that we're to stay in Europe, I would have respected that because it's democratic. I would have respected it. I wouldn't go carping on it or want the politicians to try to overturn it. I'd say, no, that's what the majority voted, and I'd respect it. So those who lost need to respect the fact that they lost and let the will of the people be implemented. These are my thoughts. All right, take care. God bless.